For 4 years, we've been told that a gold-backed currency was coming that would reset the current debt-based currency that is the US petrodollar. Earlier this month, we were told that Russia has gone out and created a gold-backed currency. Immediately, the fact-checkers shot it down. Today, we learned that Russia has now set a price for this gold. This will be the subject of this news report from World Series News. Early this month, I made a video called Shitting Bricks, and it was all about Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa creating a payment system and using reserves amongst themselves. I reported this tweet from the Gold Telegraph, which says India exploring ways to set up a rupee payment mechanism for trade with Russia. Pay attention, things are moving very fast now. I then referred to Maxime Bernier, a former Harper government minister in Canada, who is now the leader of the People's Party movement there. And he said this in a series of tweets. China and Russia have accumulated a lot of gold and are dumping their dollar assets. By escalating the Ukraine conflict and imposing financial sanctions, we are pushing them to establish an alternative global monetary system, likely based on gold. He then went on to tweet, when this happens, the US dollar will crash and our massively indebted economies will suffer. This is a big geopolitical blunder. And by the way, Canada has no gold reserve. We won't have anything to support the Canadian dollar. And almost nobody sees this coming. P.S. I support the return to sound money and a gold standard, as I have often said over the past decade. But now, in an unprepared and destabilizing fashion as the one we are facing now, our irresponsible governments are completely unaware of the consequences of their actions. So this is all the prologue. I then went on to report that in Australia, it was Senator Gerard Rennick, the Liberal, who stood before a Senate committee and asked why it was that the Reserve Bank had found out that we had counterfeit gold in Australia's gold reserves and wanted to know what the reaction was from the authorities and the bureaucrats in that position. They weren't even worried. So this is a very important juncture for those of us in the US, Canada, and Australia right now, because here is the big development. According to this tweet from Dr. Alyssa Benson, holy hell, they did it. This is a really big deal, the financial equivalent of nuclear bombs. Most world's economies are all based on debt. Now Russia's money is based on money. Russia's central bank announces ruble bound to gold, 5,000 rubles per gram. So what does this all mean? In a blog from Joe Tazara, an MD out of Israel National News, he has reported on this story. It's official, Russia's central bank announces ruble bound to gold, 5,000 rubles per gram. While you waste time talking about the Oscars, understand Russia has just detonated a financial nuclear bomb on the world by binding the ruble to gold. Putin predicting dollar and euro's demise, and everyone else moving to real reserves of raw materials like land, food, and gold. So rest assured, people in Australia, we are rich in resources, and now they have more detailed intrinsic value to us now more than ever. The Central Bank of Russia has officially announced that as of March 28, 2022, the Russian ruble currency is bound to gold. The rate is 5,000 rubles per gram of gold bullion. Now, this equates to 32 grams in each troy ounce. 32 grams times 5,000 rubles per gram is 160,000 rubles. The conversion rate of rubles to US dollars is 100 rubles, 90 kopecks to each US dollar. If rubles are bound to gold at 5,000 rubles per gram, and there are 32 grams per troy ounce, meaning 1 ounce of gold would cost 160,000 rubles, then converting that to US dollars means gold is $1,600 per ounce when using rubles, instead of $1,928 per ounce using US dollars. Russia, just by this, has wiped out about 30% of the value of the US dollar worldwide when it comes to gold bullion. Worse, because Russia will only now sell its oil and gas in rubles, and rubles are now fixed at $5,000 per gram. Anyone wishing to buy oil or gas will need to either pay in rubles or pay in gold, and they won't get the US dollar value for the gold they tender as payment. People around the world will literally be throwing their money at the ruble and dumping US dollars and euros to do it. What Russia just did is the financial equivalent of detonating a nuclear bomb. Now, the last guy on the planet who tried to back a currency with gold was Gaddafi of Libya. NATO went into Libya, bombed the shit out of it, and until the people of Libya grabbed Gaddafi on the street, beat him bloody, and put a bullet in his head. So as of yesterday, it's possible that bankers all over the world have been on the phones with each other, with heads of state, instructing them what Russia has done, which will totally smash the US dollar and the euro. And those bankers will be telling the heads of state that World War III is on. And let's explain how that works. Today, the Russian central bank pegged rubles to gold. Last week, Russia declared they would only sell oil and gas in rubles. This means Russian oil and gas are pegged to gold, with rubles as the proxy for gold. The effect is that Europe, that needs Russian gas and oil, will now have to pay by rubles from using gold or pay with oil and gas with gold itself. Currently, the foreign exchange rate for rubles to dollars is about 100 to 1. But with 5,000 rubles now equaling 1 gram of gold and oil being priced directly in gold, we are going to see a massive price disruption in foreign exchange markets in terms of how much gold a dollar can still buy. Foreign countries holding our dollar notes in reserve, that is US dollars, will see an immediate and far less use for them and will want to start dumping them in favor of something more stable, something which holds its value. Basically, any currency pegged to gold will fit the bill, which means countries like Japan will start dumping their dollar debt as fast as they can. They are not going to go down with this ship. They will move into more stable currencies like the ruble. This will have a deflationary effect on the ruble, making it more value over time. This also means Putin can repeg the ruble anytime he wants to like 500 or 50 or 10. It just keeps getting more valuable for him. The instant result is that all foreign countries dumping their dollar reserves will cause all those excess dollars to start coming home, triggering worse hyperinflation than we already have seen in the United States. Is it any wonder why Biden was on stage last week calling for regime change in Russia? He's about to have masses of angry and literally starving Americans marching through the streets and demanding answers. Now, an update as of yesterday, Putin has made a public statement on video about what has taken place with binding the ruble to gold. In that statement, he points out that Western nations have simply stolen Russia's foreign currency reserves and gold bullion reserves, and by doing so, worldwide trust in so-called first-class action, safety of investing in the West has been smashed. He goes on to predict that people will now dump their holdings of dollars and euros to safer investments like land, food, and raw materials. And Putin would be correct. The impact of what Russia has done is a literal dagger to the heart of the US dollar and euro. No one will want these currencies anymore, and since the US barely manufactures anything domestically, when foreign countries cease accepting the dollar for payment, shortage of everything will slam the US and Europe. And this concludes the article that was posted by Joe Tazara. He didn't write it. It's come from another party where he has taken it from. So what we're seeing now is the financial component of what happens when you take on a superpower based on what appears to be a manufactured crisis now in between Russia and Ukraine. So we don't know what's going on because the reporting is silent, but what we are seeing here is that the plot is definitely thickening. Now, it is a massive story on its own. Think about what's going on. Cool heads will prevail, but it is moving now at a pace we have never seen before. What does it mean for Australians? Well, it means this. We would have to expect that if this flows on, inflation will take off here. We have to be very, very clear now about what our government and our Labor opposition is offering in terms of protecting ourselves against inflation. And we must now look at other alternatives more than ever. Now, I keep saying this, and this is part of the reason why I joined the political party I did to run as a candidate, but a third financial alternative policy is about to be announced that will put paid to all of this and ensure and insulate all Australians as to what's coming. April 7, it will be announced. I will have breaking news here on World Series News and analysis to be able to explain how this will totally benefit Australians and also our country as we fight for our financial survival. What a great time to be alive. Keep your cool head and keep watching We have been right all along. Do not believe anything the media tells you. If it is going to make your life more difficult, it need not be that way. We are going to get new leadership, whether they like it or not. I'm Jason Olborn, reporting for World Series News.